Anyway, all right, our next presenters are in the back room. If you guys will come forward. Yeah, as they're coming forward, I'll introduce them. Tony Franklin is our field representative. You've seen from the map a little earlier, from Area 3, Region 3. And of course, we have John Mueller with the Natural Resources Conservation Service State Office here. They're going to be talking to you about the difference between the NRCS, SWCDS, State Board. And you're going to hear a lot of these acronyms throughout this workshop. In fact, we put an index in your back of those things. But sometimes it gets mind-boggling as when you're talking about NACD, association, on and on. But we'll try to unravel all that.
Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for coming to this training. Like Clyde mentioned, one of the things, especially if you're a brand new director, new employee, you're going to be bombarded with all kinds of acronyms. In fact, last year I had a brand new district director that came to this training. She actually went back to her local board with 4 pages of typed up notes from everything. So she actually learned something today, and you will too. But one thing she joked about this presentation, she called me Mr. Alphabet Soup. What the heck does all this stuff mean? So like Clyde mentioned, if y'all look towards the back of your notebook, y'all do have an attachment, and it does have a list of some of the common acronyms that you might come across. So, but what we're going to be talking about this morning is the NRCS, SWCD, TSSWCB. What is the difference? Well, first of all, and I learned this last year because I had an old boy holler at me, he says, I don't even know what any of that stuff means. So NRCS is the Natural Resources Conservation Service. SWCD is obviously Soil and Water Conservation District, and TSSWCB is Texas State Soil and Water Conservation Board, and sometimes for short you'll hear people just call it the State Board. So NRCS, and I want to turn this over real quick to John.
Good morning, and again, my name is John Miller. I'm pleased to be here. I'm filling in for Sal Salinas, who is our state conservationist, and unfortunately he's traveling today. But anyway, NRCS started from the Dust Bowl days, as had been described, and one of the things, everybody knew it as a soil conservation service up until a little bit more than a decade ago. And now we have kind of some of those things that the public is used to seeing. You'll see the white trucks with the signs on the doors, that kind of deal. But that's one of the things that the public is kind of related. So there is some confusion when people come and walk in the doors about who does what or who can help out. So that's one of the things that the staffs really do a good job of just getting the information and working across staffs and making sure that things are done. Also, when you go up and see an office, you should see the flag there. You should see various nomenclature on the offices, so that also helps indicate some of the differences.
So, and like John said, you know, a lot of times, and in most cases too, you know, there is some confusion, and because the SWCDs, the Soil and Water Conservation Districts, in most cases, they don't have their own office or their own building. So a lot of times they are headquartered in that local NRCS office. And so that's always been some confusion for some folks. And the state board for a long time, really the only presence we had was the field staff. You know, Brandon Berger just showed you all the map of all the field reps. But here lately, in recent years, we've added different regional office to further establish our visibility. And of course, we have regional offices in Hale Center, San Angelo, Harlingen, Wharton, Mount Pleasant, and Dublin. We also have a water supply enhancement office in San Angelo, and our poultry water quality management plan office there in Nacogdoches. So each entity is separate from one another, and the big thing to kind of help explain this is how is each agency funded. So the NRCS, or the Natural Resources Conservation Service, is federally funded. It's underneath the USDA, the United States Department of Agriculture. The state board, obviously, is funded by the great state of Texas, mainly from the general revenue. And then soil and water conservation districts, it's partially funded by the state through part of the state board's budget. The state of Texas, the legislature, they provide matching funds and TA, which stands for Technical Assistance, to soil and water conservation districts. And these funds, they vary from district to district, and that just depends on programs, needs, and the ability to raise and match funds. And a while ago, I mentioned that a lot of districts don't have their own office space, but in some cases, I know one district that I meet with, they've been able to secure their own buildings and their own office space, and in some cases, they actually rent out office space to NRCS or other government agencies. Now, every district is different. Every district has their own way of raising funds, and a lot of them will receive funds or donations through local foundations, or a lot of times that commissioner's court or county judge, they'll budget funds for soil and water conservation district. Some other districts, they'll send out letters and they'll get donations from individuals, from ag producers in the county, or even businesses in their local county or local district. And a lot of districts, a lot of directors are working hard to raise money through equipment rental, seed sales, fish sales, plant sales. I know some districts do barbecue sales, making sausage. I mean, the sky's the limit on the ways that district can raise funds locally. But one thing that you do have to remember, now Soil and Water Conservation District is a subdivision of government, but it is a non-taxing entity. Districts do not have taxing authority.
Okay, one of the things that we do in working with everybody is there's a basic format or understanding, and it's tied into what we call a Memorandum of Understanding. So it allows districts, state board, NRCS to all work together on a daily basis. These are generally fairly broad agreements. They can spell out just general concepts of different things that you want to see done and working toward a common goal. Okay, well, I get to go into a little bit more detail. MOU is a formal collaboration between all of the entities who are going to cooperate in a project, program, or undertaking to work together to achieve soil, water, or related natural resource conservation objectives. So they are written, approved, they're not contractual, they're not legally binding, so they're just kind of almost like a handshake deal saying this is what we're agreeing to work on. And it can also apply to other things that will be added on at a later time, such as amendments, annexes, other related documents, different technical arrangements, different things that you have to set up within the office, and they can either be standalone or they can be tied to an existing MOU. So who's the boss? The differences in employment between the different groups. Okay, NRCS employees, whether those are the district conservationists, the range cons, the technicians, whoever they may be, are federal employees. They're not SWCD employees. So NRCS works with SWCDs, not for the SWCDs. So there's a fine line in there. We're going to be working toward common goals. Hiring, firing, transfers, promotions of NRCS employees, NRCS takes care of that. Because of the close work environment shared by NRCS and the districts, sometimes NRCS, a district conservationist with the permission of the board, may actually supervise a district clerk or something. But always remember that the district has a final say in respect to scheduling and what the district employees do.
Okay, for soil and water conservation districts, so each district has an employee, or in some cases a couple employees. That'll be a bookkeeper, your secretary, administrative assistant. Some districts have a technician, or they get a 319 grant from EPA and can have a full-time district employee. They work for the Soil and Water Conservation District Board. They do not work for the NRCS, and they do not work for the state board. The hiring, the firing of these district employees, that's the responsibility of directors of that Soil and Water Conservation District Board. It's not the responsibility of that local district conservationist, and it's not the responsibility of your field rep or any other state board employee. But certainly, listen to those folks, take input from the NRCS and the state board employees making decisions in that matter. The state board, we do not have any authority over district employees. We also don't have any authority over NRCS employees. But there is that approval system that exists between the districts, the state board, and the NRCS. And one thing, I'll just share some stories with you, if y'all don't mind. I had this was before my time, but there was a soil and water conservation district, and they had a district employee who was temperamental, and she told that district conservationist, "I do not work for you." And she actually got her own office space clear across town somewhere else. So technically she was right, but that probably wasn't the best way to handle things. A while ago too, they talked about NRCS, local district conservationists, maybe kind of overseeing district employees. I know I have one district that I meet with, and they hire a part-time technician. And in their case, they're a college town, so they work with that ag department for that university, and so they always have all kinds of different students coming in. And that district conservationist and that board are always communicating together, but the board leaves it up to that district conservationist to train that employee, work with that employee, take that employee out, and in some cases report back to the board and say, "Hey, this person's not working out. We need to fire him." But again, the ultimate decision for hiring or firing came through that board. So on conclusion here, districts, Soil and Water Conservation Districts, Texas State Soil and Water Conservation Board, and the Natural Resources Conservation Service, we work together through the Memorandum of Understanding. And one thing on that MOU, a lot of times you'll hear people shorten it to that. I know, and correct me if I'm wrong, but a lot of times that district conservationist, at least once a year in a board meeting, will review that MOU. And at any time too, if y'all, for whatever reason, miss that meeting, or when you go back, you want to take a look at it, get with your district conservationist or get with your district employee, and they can probably show you a copy of that. Employees of each entity work together to carry out various federal, state, and local programs, but employee issues should be handled by the appropriate parties.
Questions?
So, any questions? John's real good at answering questions. So.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Hold on one second.
Is there a standard for all districts in NRCS, or does each district do their own?
So the question is there a standard MOU for all districts in NRCS offices, or does each one vary?
It does start with a standard MOU. Now, if there are minor details that sometimes you have to add to it or you want to put into it, perhaps if there is a storage shed or something that is being utilized for a four-wheeler or something, there are different things that can be written in there that are just a little bit different, perhaps. And one thing I did want to add as well, NRCS is set up with 5 zones. They pretty much coincide with the district zones, or the district boundaries rather. And one of the things, we're talking about this, if you have concerns about something that NRCS is doing or not doing, please let us know. And a lot of times that may be talking to either the district conservationist or the zone conservationist. We're going to try to do the best that we can. Right now, like the state, we are under a hiring freeze. We recognize we have a lot of openings out there, so we're shuffling people as best as we can to fill holes.